everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Shreya Gada, a full-time artist, art educator and Skillshare teacher from India. Today we will be painting this gorgeous landscape using completely wet on wet technique. So let's get started. For this, you will need all these materials. I have linked everything in the description box below. So make sure that you check it out. The final painting I have attached on the right hand side, so just pause the video and complete the sketching part. It's very simple. Once that is done, let's stretch the paper. That is, let's wet the whole paper on both the sides. First, I will wet the back end of the paper and then I will wet the front. Make sure that you are using a board to stick down your paper. Once that is done, let's prepare the color for the sky. For the blue color, I have mixed cobalt blue, a tiny bit of ultramarine and a tiny bit of white. Same way to make the grey, I have mixed tiny bit of white to my black. And then I started applying very light value of grey color, leaving few white gaps in between. Once that is done, I started applying the blue color which we have already prepared onto the sky. Make sure that you are leaving that white gaps in between so that it will make it look like clouds. Do it very slowly as the paper is wet. It is very easy for you to blend all the colors. In case that is not happening, then just use the damp brush to blend the colors together. I'm pretty satisfied with how my sky is looking. I'm just using the damp brush to blend everything together. Once that is done, let's move on to the foreground part. So I'll be using gamboge yellow, a tiny bit of green and yellow ochre to paint the ground area. If you will notice, as we are working wet on wet, the yellow color is flowing towards the water area. So that's the reason I just tilted the board a little so that the colors will flow downwards instead of upwards. Once that is done, I'm just splattering the plain water onto the foreground area and then I will splatter some white color as well while the paper is still wet. Then I will just lift off the yellow color on the water area. It's quite simple, you just have to use the damp brush to lift off your paints. Don't worry if you are not able to lift off completely because anyways we will be painting bushes in that area. Then I will splatter some more white colors as you see that it has already mixed with the background as the paint was wet. So once that is done, let's paint the background mountain. So I'm just mixing a very dark green color by mixing Persian blue and green together to make it darker, and then I'm applying the same color in the background mountains. Working wet on wet is very difficult, especially when you don't know the exact technique because the water will flow all around and you will have to control it. So if you are not comfortable doing this, then you can try painting this using wet on dry technique, but I would suggest you to paint the sky area wet on wet, otherwise you won't get the soft looking clouds. You can try this wet on dry as well. So if you are a complete beginner with this medium, then please try wet on dry. Alright, so once that is done, I'm just painting the water area with the leftover blue color which I had on my palette. Then I will start painting the bushes in the foreground. So once that is done, I'll just use my nails to create the highlight on the paper. So just observe me how I'm doing. In case you don't have nails, you can use palette knife or even a cutter to do that. Any sharp object will work beautifully. I'm just using my nails right now. Then I'll do the same thing to paint the grasses as well. And you see it creates magic, right? Remember one thing, but you have to do it while your paper is still wet or semi-wet, otherwise you won't be able to get this effect. Then I'll start painting the background mountain using the green color. I'll paint the top portion darker and the bottom I will paint it lighter using the lemon yellow color. Then if you notice, the bushes got way too light, so I'll just layer the same green color on top of it. Next, I'm taking dry Chinese brush and I'll draw the grasses using the same. If you don't have this, you can either use your fan brush or you can use a brush which has been completely ruined, so don't throw it up. It will be very helpful to paint these grasses. So the grasses in the front would be bigger, whereas as we move towards the river or the horizon line, it will get smaller and smaller. Alright, so once that is done, I'll just darken the water area using ultramarine blue, and then layering the bushes one more time. Each time you layer, make sure that you are using thicker and thicker consistency of paint so that the color won't spread out a lot. Once this is done, I will lift off some paint using the synthetic brush in the background to create the highlights on the mountain, as right now it is looking quite flat. Then I will take my smaller round brush and I will take a very thick consistency of white paint and I'll start drawing the flowers in the foreground. The same rule applies here, that is, the flower in the foreground would be bigger whereas in the background would be smaller. So just keep that in mind. Once that is done, I will take the blue color and just drop that at the bottom of the flower to make it a little more interesting. And then using the leftover color to paint the darker grasses in the foreground. Again, lifting off some of the paints in the background mountains. You see, as we are working wet on wet, even if you will lift off some paint, the color would flow and the highlight would be gone. So you will have to keep on repeating the steps of lifting and layering. That's how you work with wet on wet. So once that is done, I'm just taking bamboo yellow and layering the lighter color near the bushes to create a bit of highlight. So as you move towards the end of your painting, you will have to use thicker and thicker paint so that it spreads less. So while we started, we painted the light value, that is a watery color. Now we'll have to use the thicker consistency of paint, like I said, so that it doesn't spread a lot. Then I'll directly take ultramarine blue and apply that color onto the water. And then I'll use the damp brush to blend everything together. Once that is done, you'll see that the highlight which we created was gone. So I'm redoing it one more time. Now at the end, the paper would be almost dry. So using this technique would work and the colors won't flow. Then I'm just taking the white color on my brush and creating the fog effect near the mountains. And that's it. Once this is done, you can let your paper completely dry. Here I'll just add few more darker tones in the bushes and I'll also add one more layer in the fog and we'll be done. Then let your painting completely dry. You can use a hair dryer or you can just let it air dry and then you can frame it at your home. So I really hope that you enjoyed painting wet on wet with me. In case you found it difficult, like I said before, you can use wet on dry technique as well. So just tackle one subject at a time. That is, wet the sky area first and then paint that. Then next, wet the foreground part and then paint that. Once that is dry, you can paint the mountains and the water. So use whichever techniques work for you. Alright, so this is how our final painting looks. What I thought is I will add one more mountain in the background, so I'll mix my sap green color with the tiny bit of blue and make it very watery, and I'll paint the background mountain using the same color. I decided to add that because the fog in the background was not visible, so I thought I will add a darker mountain in the background and you will automatically be able to see that. Alright, so that's it. If you enjoyed watching, then don't forget to like, share, comment, and I'll see you guys really soon in the next video. Bye.